Meeting will come to order. That's the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under initial public comment, we don't have anyone signed up. Did someone forget to sign? That will go on to a report from Ken.
By the way, Mr. Chairman, did you want to approve the agenda, or shall we just move forward?
Just to be down that a little bit.
Yes, sir. On, I believe it was July 24th, we had an executive session. The following items were discussed during the executive session. Gave the general manager his evaluation. We discussed the format of the general manager's evaluation and requested Commissioner Kalani to bring us alternative formats. Reviewed the general manager's goals and objectives for the upcoming year, and provided some of our own suggestions to that. There will be final discussions at our next session to finalize that document. And we discussed current litigation, and that was all that took place in that closed session. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Lee?
Did you have an item you wanted removed from the agenda?
Yes, I would. We have maybe a technical problem, so I'd like to make sure that we're getting the sound.
Okay.
Put that down. Report from Ken.
Again, on July 24th, we held an executive session. During that executive session, we gave the general manager his evaluation. We discussed the format of that evaluation and assigned Commissioner Kalani to bring to the board alternative evaluation formats. We reviewed the general manager's goals and objectives for the upcoming year and provided some of our own. There will be a follow-up on that at our next work session. We discussed current litigation, and we discussed the idea of a code of conduct for the board to adopt in the future. And that was the substance of the meeting.
Can we have a motion to accept the agenda?
Move to accept the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
We have an amendment.
Mr. President, staff requests that you remove item number 7 from the agenda and move it to the work session. There have been significant changes since the first reading of that, and we think that rather than turn this meeting into a work session, it would be more appropriate to have it discussed further at the work session.
That's acceptable.
Pardon?
That's acceptable.
Okay. All those in favor of the agenda as written without number 7, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Present.
Under action items. First action item number 3. And we have a motion.
Move to approve resolution 04-2014.
Second.
Carol?
Good evening, Carol Bright, CFO. This is an annual update that we bring to the board regarding the wholesale rates that we charge to Sunrise Water Authority. The effective date of the rate increase will be July 1st, so this is retroactive. We will go back 1 month. This year is a little bit different than prior years. For the last several years, we have simply been increasing it by the CPI in the Portland metro area and by the increase or change in electricity costs. But we, as you know, we went through the cost of service study with the FCS group in the spring of this year, and we were able to isolate all of the parts of our system utilized by Sunrise Water to get water to them from the plant. And FCS came up with a rate of 62 and 200 cents per CCF. So we have discussed with Sunrise Water Authority. They're aware of the significant change. And but one thing we did do is we did not come up with, we didn't calculate a rate for the emergency water supply, which they have not used in quite some time. So that will be determined at the time that they use it. Typically, historically, it's been about 8 cents more for the emergency use because there is additional pumping at that location. So again, as I said, the rates were based on the work done by the FCS group, and we do have 1 month's worth of billing that has already been paid at the old rate. We will bill them for the adjustment, which is about $15,000. And I have provided a little bit of history of what the rates have been. As you can see, we've had a very slow economy with little or no inflation, so the rates have moved very, very slowly over the last few years. We feel confident that the work FCS group did has provided us with actual cost of providing water to that wholesale customer. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if I can.
I have a question.
Yes.
How does the rate that we charge compare to what Sunrise pays other people for the same water?
I am not sure what the rate is that they're paying for water from the North Clackamas County Water Commission. I know the methodology is a little bit different. For NCCWC, they look at all of the users and divide up their cost by the proportionate share of use of the plant, and then they do a true up at the end of the year. So if Sunrise said, I'm going to use, you know, this much water, and they use significantly less, they would end up paying that difference anyway. And we don't really do it. We charge them specifically for the water that they use from our plant. I do believe the NCCWC cost is a little bit lower, and they are owners of that plant as well. So
That is what I was going to state, Mr. Chair, that they have an ownership interest, and so there would be a different charge methodology, whereas the methodology that we're now going to is a cost of service model, which basically talks about the base rate plus the cost of distribution from one point to the next.
Any more questions? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Humbertson?
Aye.
Commissioner Kalani?
Aye.
Commissioner McNeil?
Aye.
Commissioner Sterling?
No.
And Commissioner Sella.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Item number 4. We have a motion.
I have a question. Section 1.12E, it says Commissioner agrees to provide a phone line connection for the laptop computer to pay phone line costs and expenses and to pay any internet usage costs not related to district business. I don't understand what that means.
Lee?
Historically, we would pay for the internet charges. What we've done, it's probably a little bit antiquated, because
Yeah,
now
that's
what
what
we do is.
That's what I was wondering why it's in there,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we use a little card now, I think, several
Even our-
commissioners have those,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I just didn't know. It's one of those things you didn't get told when you sign up for this.
Yeah.
As I find these, I'm going, well, what are we doing here? So, because I don't know how you break out internet charges from a home internet connection.
Yeah. One of the things that happens on the, yes, that is correct.
Can't do it.
Yeah. I think that's why some of the commissioners have prefer the card rather than, and some don't have internet access, hardwired.
Right. Okay.
The motion I was looking for is to read this resolution by title only.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Present.
Commissioner Sterling?
Can we
When you
have-
say present, do you mean no or yes?
No.
Okay.
Can we have this read by title only?
This is Resolution 01-2014. It's a resolution amending Clackamas River Water Board Policy, Board Operations, Section 1. And I'll go through and stop at the end of the whereases in terms of the title. Whereas a regular meeting was called by the Board of Commissioners of Clackamas River Water District on August 8, 2013, and whereas pursuant to the provisions of ORS 192.640, notice of said regular meeting and the purpose thereof was given by email, Clackamas River Water website, and or telephone to the members of the governing body, the news media, which have requested notice, and the general public in accordance with requirements of said statute, and whereas after consideration, the Board of Commissioners find that, 1, Clackamas River Water Board Policy, Section 1, Board Operation establishes the time frame and work for board operations. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners that Clackamas River Water Board Policy, Board Operation Section 1 is amended to read.
We have a motion.
Move to accept as presented. Second.
Any discussion?
No, there was
Seeing-
there was a couple of typos that I noted, but I'm not sure if it was in this agenda, this one, or one of the next ones. I'm not finding it, so it must be one of the next ones. But I will find them.
If we're ready for a vote, let's have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Humberstone?
Aye.
Commissioner Kalani?
Aye.
Commissioner McNeil?
Aye.
Commissioner Sterling?
Present.
And Commissioner Sola?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Number 5. Can we have a motion to read by title only?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Was been made and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Present.
To read it by title.
Clackamas River Water Resolution 02-2014, a resolution amending Clackamas River Water Board Policy, Bylaws of the Board, Section 2, whereas a regular meeting was called by the Board of Commissioners of Clackamas River Water District on August 8, 2013, and whereas pursuant to the provisions of 192.640, notice of said regular meeting and the purpose thereof was given by email, Clackamas River Water website, and or telephone to the members of the governing body, the news media, which has requested notice, and the general public in accordance with the requirements of said statute. And whereas after consideration, the Board of Commissioners finds that, 1, Clackamas River Water Board Policy, Section 2, Bylaws of the Board establishing governance for the Board. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Clackamas River Water that Clackamas River Water Board Policy, Bylaws of the Board, Section 2, is amended to read.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve as presented.
Second. Any questions? Any comment? Now we have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Humberstone?
Aye.
Commissioner Kalani?
Aye.
Commissioner McNeil?
Aye.
Commissioner Sterling?
Present.
Commissioner Sola?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Number 6. Can we have a motion?
Move to approve, or move to have a first reading of Resolution 052014. Second. And on that note,
Which one is that?
This is
item number 6, Resolution 05-2014.
To expedite things, I think the proper motion should be to read it by title only. Even though it doesn't say that.
I'll accept that amendment by title.
Second, okay. You want to read it?
yes.
Title only?
And this would be the first reading, Mr. President, and members of the board. This would be Resolution 05 dash.
Excuse me, are you taking public comment on these? Is
But
your
I
vote?
just, we have a motion. We're reading by title only first, and then we're gonna have a motion to accept it.
Okay,
and then we'll call for public comment.
thank you.
Resolution 05-014, this is a resolution amending Clackamas River Water Board Policy, Budget and Finance, Section 3, whereas a regular meeting was called by the Board of County Commissioners, Clackamas River Water District, on September 12, 2013, and whereas pursuant to the revisions of ORS 192-640, notice of said regular meeting and the purpose thereof was given by email, Clackamas River Water website, and/or telephone to members of the governing body, the news media which has requested notice, and the general public in accordance with the requirements of said statute. And whereas, after consideration, the Board of Commissioners find that 1, Clackamas River Water Board Policy Section 3, Budget, Finance, establishing governance for the board, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Clackamas County River Waters that 1, Clackamas River Water Board Policy, Budget and Finance, Section 3 is amended to read.
Now we'll have public comment.
Thank you.
Barbara?
I just have a couple of comments on this particular one, on section 3.5, disposition of real estate. None of you were here 9 years or so ago when there was an attempt made to sell the property on Roberts Avenue for a very small amount of money. This property was worth $600,000, $700,000, and it was going to be sold to the neighbor for $92,000. I finally stopped it by making an offer myself for $110,000, at which time they decided that they weren't going to sell it. I think it's really important to have something pretty strong in our real estate policies to keep that kind of thing from happening again, because there was an appraiser involved there, apparently not a very apt appraiser who appraised it for that little bit of amount of money. But so for section 3.5, F2 deals with properties valued between $20,000 and $150,000, and then the next F3 deals over $150,000. And I would like to see an advertising component connected with each of those. There's nothing in here about them being publicly advertised or suitably advertised. And also, you know, particularly for the properties over $150,000, it seems to me that it should be looked at. Maybe not a full appraisal done by more than one, but it should be thoroughly evaluated before accepting any one appraisal. And that's one reason I came on this board to start with, was to stop that kind of thing from ever happening again. So that's what I just want to bring that up at this point for you to consider. Thank you.
Thanks for your
Could
testimony.
I ask her a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Barbara?
Barbara,
What?
I have a question.
Oh.
When this happened, they were gonna sell it with only one appraisal?
There was one appraisal made.
There's only one appraisal?
Yeah. And
Really?
apparently somebody who's, it's I-3 property, but the then manager apparently didn't find a really good appraiser.
Yeah, but how would you know if you only have one?
Pardon?
How would you know you had a good appraisal if you only had one appraisal?
Well,
I mean,
that,
it seems odd to me.
right. See,
So wouldn't the solution have been to go on and ask for another appraisal?
I think there's nothing, I think there's nothing wrong with going out to the industry and saying, look, we have this property available. What do you guys think you could get for it? What do you think it's worth? If this would have gone through if it hadn't been
Right.
that
I
I
understand
have been active in my CPO, which is in this area for many years, and I know what industrial
Yeah,
properties worth.
absolutely. Yeah. I just think it's strange to
But
try to
the
sell.
board, the members of the board then had no idea what was
Really?
going on.
Okay. We do.
So just, I'd like to have you figure some way
Yeah.
to take care of that kind of thing.
Grassett, you have a question of Barbara, you have a statement?
Both.
Okay.
Ms. Kemper, were you here when Mr. Kerr sold the Sunnyside Kaiser strip to Sunrise Water?
He and the board sold that, yes. They
Were
had.
you a commissioner at the time?
Yes, I was. No, I wasn't a commissioner.
Okay. And do you recall what it was approximately, how much they sold that for?
No,
$850,000.
right.
Do you know
They-
what the approximate revenue generated on an annual basis to Sunrise Water is currently?
No, I don't.
It's
But
$350,000 plus dollars. I think you're absolutely correct, Ms. Kemper, that you need to take and really look at these issues. You're
Right.
absolutely correct. Thank you very much.
Right, I do know that there was considerable effort put into what it would cost to bring that property up to code. You know, up to where it would be some, I don't know, the lines in the, I don't know if it was lines in the ground or whatever it was, but there were a lot of things that the then board thought had to be done. As I say, I wasn't involved in it. No.
Ken?
I want to make sure I understand your two basic points. One is, if I understood you correctly, is you think there ought to be a public notice of the sale,
Yes,
so that anybody who wants to make a bid on it would be
Absolutely.
notified and be able to bid,
absolutely.
and you think that should be in the policy? Am I correct? That should be part of the policy?
That, I would like to see something like that
Okay.
in policy
And-
personally.
Okay, and the second issue is having multiple appraisers, not just one.
Right, whether they're actual full appraisals that you pay the 2,000 or whatever it's for,
Okay.
or going out to the industry and saying, what's this worth?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I was clear on the 2 points that you were raising, so that the general manager can make notes to that effect. This is a first reading. Obviously, we're still working on policy revisions,
Right.
so this may be language that we would change. But I wanted to make sure we were focused on the specific points that you raised.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
I just have a question. Is the requirement for publication in the statute, is that mandatory?
Mr. President, I do need to go back and refresh my memory on 264-210. I believe there is, but that's not certain statement, so I'd rather make it certain when we get into the second reading. But I've made note of Ms. Kipper's.
Okay. And
Thank you, Barb.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barb.
with respect to one correction, one typo correction, under section 3.6, investment of funds, item B, it says the general manager or designee is the investment officer, period, T. And then item C is where the T should belong. So it's just a simple typo. It just jumped, there was a couple of those that jumped out at me, so I figured once we get to the final point, we'll just have it corrected, that's all.
Anyone else from the audience wish to testify on this? Carol? Cindy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Cindy Lewis, we're from Unincorporated Milwaukee. I'm a ratepayer. I have to just come and say to you that I don't see another time for the public to speak loosely, other than the top of the meeting. And I'm concerned that there's no place for comments, public comments to be made that do not affect the particular item that you're dealing with at the end of the meeting. So that is why I'm here speaking to this item, because it happened during the comments being made about this item. I would ask that you as commissioners, if you're going to be making a comment about the person or questioning the person who's speaking, that you keep your comments focused on what that person made and not do them in such an antagonistic way towards the speaker, the public speaker who comes before you. It really it discourages people from making comments from the public when they are met with anger and antagonism from the board members. And I would ask the chair perhaps speak to the members of the board about presentation methods. And I apologize for bringing that to the attention of the board during discussion, and ask, is there going to be a time for the board at the end of the comments? So if there's something we have in question, Or do you want us to bring comments like this up during the discussion of each item?
Inadvertently, the final public comment was left off the agenda, but we'll make sure that.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I'd like to request some guidance from the general manager as far as the procedure we need to follow now, since it's a first reading, and there's gonna have to be, or potentially there'll be corrections or changes to that first reading. What form of motion should we make to move this to the next step?
Well, I would think that you would be directing me, Mr. President, in terms of the board, if you believe that the comments that were provided by the public are appropriate, in my opinion they are, that you ask us to consider that and include those prior to the second reading, so that the board has an opportunity to entertain them.
Then I'd like to request of the chair that we include that as part of our work session.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we don't have to take any further action on this item procedurally, do we?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Essentially, that's what the 28-day period is. It envisions changes in that time, or an opportunity for change.
Item 7 was posted on the agenda, so we're going to the consent agenda. So,
As this is the consent agenda, I don't really have a presentation for that, but we're waiting for a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda. I'm sorry.
Second.
Taking notes.
Motion made the second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
President,
Go ahead.
Okay, now we're on agenda item 8. This is the financial reports. We start with our accounts receivable aging. The balance as of July 31st was $193,000, a little bit more than the balance a few months ago, but we had warmer weather, a larger billing cycle. The payments have actually been coming in pretty good in spite of the fact that many people saw higher bills than they were expecting. The June billing was $412,000 greater than the April billing, but if you remember, this covers the period of time from April through the middle of June. And we had some 80-degree days in April as well as many 80-degree days in May, so a warmer year than we had last year. Next, we'll move on to cash and investment position. The cash position is up pretty significantly. Again, this is as of July 31st. The bills went out on June 30th, so with a due date of July 15th. So we have been collecting money on a pretty regular, steady basis during this time period. Next, I have the graph that is comparing our revenues for 12 months over the last 5 years. And you can see that our revenues for 2013 are significantly better than they have been in the past few years. Part of that is the rate increase that was instituted a year ago, and the rest of it is additional volumes of water that were sold in fiscal year 2013, which I attribute to weather as well as to improved economic conditions. And here's a chart of our expenditures, again comparing 12 months over, general fund expenditures 12 months year over year. And you can see that in spite of the fact that our revenues have gone up, we are working very hard to hold the line on the expenditures. And our expenditures for the fiscal year 2013 are a bit below the expenditures that we incurred in 2012. This chart shows basically the comparison year over year. Our total revenue came in about 9% over the estimated revenue. The majority of that amount was in the water sales area, but we had a couple of other things. We did have Beaver Creek Telephone that paid off their lease. This was something that the board was involved in and that the board approved, and so that increased our miscellaneous non-operating revenue for the time period. It will reduce that amount next year because we won't have those monthly payments coming in. And this is the time of year when we talk about our quarterly reports, so I have provided line item detail for the board's review. And would like to say these are unaudited numbers. We have not finished making all of our journal entries at this point. So we still have a few more things to take care of, but all categories are within the budget appropriations. We have about $412,000 of appropriations in the general fund that were not spent. Just was reviewing numbers again today. We did some accruals since these reports came out to the board, and that number's down to about $350,000 now. And we still will have a few more entries to make. And what I will do, because of the time it takes to do the year-end close, is I'll bring you back June information in the September meeting so that you can kind of see where we've finalized numbers. So overall, personnel services came in at about 93, almost 94%. Even after the accruals, we will still be within the budgeted dollars. Materials and services came in at 95%. In the reports, you can see by category what the percentages were. I have added that information here in the handout that you have as well. But I probably don't need to read this to you, so, but certainly I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. And I guess we're through the questions part.
Any questions? Okay.
I just wanted to commend staff and management. It was very nice to look at a budget, see that for virtually every category, or almost every category, we came in under budget. I think that's a good job. It's also nice to see that revenues are up. That never hurts. But that you came in under budget, excellent. Thank you.
I do have one more comment. I have provided the board members with a copy of the Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting that CRW was able to get on our CAFR, our comprehensive annual financial report that we submitted last year. We did submit this to the Government Finance Officers Association. It's nice. We get peers from other states that look at our reports to determine if they are readable, if they provide good information, if we've used appropriate accounting methodologies. So it's another look at our financial statements other than the auditors. And we were able to receive the award this year. We'll be getting a plaque, but I just wanted the board to know that we did get the GFOA award this year.
Congratulations.
Good job, Carol.
Dan, very important.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to kind of echo Carol's report, because I was interested in how much of the sales increase was attributable to the rate increase versus how much it was water usage. And if you look under the chart that's in your packet under B1, under the combined total, you can begin to see that since January 1, we've had steady increase in water sales this year over last year. And then I wanted to see what that differential was between the north and the south area. And it seems like both north and south area also reflect increased usage. So that was interesting for every month. Although in the north area, at the beginning of the year, they were down a little bit. So I thought that was interesting information too. And it's about 3% differential year over year. So we're 3% more water than We've been notified by the auditors, and Carol talked about it a little bit, that from Moss Adams will be on site at CRW in October through the 11th of October in preparation of the fiscal year 2013 audit. I think they're intending to finish before the end of October. They said they thought that this would be pretty quickly done because they've had some experience with this before. Just a heads up that this year we will be facing and be preparing for labor negotiations. It should be an interesting year given the kind of activity that's going on. We will be coming back to the board sometime in the spring to really kind of discuss, probably an executive session, strategy, and get board input on how we need or how we should proceed in that area in terms of some of the decision parameters around the negotiations themselves.
Ken?
On item 3, labor negotiations, the last sentence, should the word study be in there? Compensation study that was planned for this year?
Well, yeah, that will be part of it. I could add it.
I'm just saying the word study, it just said from the compensation that was planned for this year. I thought the word study was supposed to be.
Study should be in there, I'm sorry,
Okay.
yes.
I thought so. Thank you.
And thank you. And we also know that as we've discussed today, you know, we've been spending quite a bit of time going through our policy review and really removing a lot of the procedures and making sure that the board policy is in fact a policy statement. I'm happy to report that staff has now gone through and we have looked at all 10 sections, and so between now and probably October we should be able to put those to bed. And as you know, that's one of the goals that the board has asked the general manager to execute during this particular fiscal year. So we should be completed with that. The one possible exception would be the LCRB, which is the Local Contract Review Board rules. Those are long overdue, so we'll be starting probably in October in a work session with those once we finish with the initial board policies, because as you know, our board sits as its own local contract review. So it's time that we update those and make sure that they're consistent with current law. Even though our practice is consistent with law, what's written is not. And so we need to make sure we do that. We've also been working as staff, although we haven't landed on anything conclusive at this point, working on management training. One of the things that we thought about doing, because it's one of the things that the board has asked us to engage in, is as we begin to talk about the strategic plan, the capital planning, and the operational planning, that we really look for opportunities in those discussions to identify areas where management training might be needed. So but we haven't really landed on that squarely at this point. I'm also pleased to announce that the railroad, actually pretty expeditiously, I thought it would take longer, even though they said they'd have it done by July, has finally given us authorization to enter there and cross their right-of-way in order to bring cable into our operations facility and water treatment plant. And I've been advised as recent as this afternoon that they're inside the building already. So that, to me, is pretty impressive. And we also talk about the work session and executive session. I think you heard Commissioner Humberston give you an update on the executive session. We hope out of this board meeting to have locked in. I've talked to several of you, and there was a desire to pick a date certain on the calendar in order to schedule work sessions, so that for those of you who have other commitments, that would make it easier for you to begin to plan your time accordingly as a result of that. Carver Bridge, we've had a discussion, continuing discussions. Mr. Collins from South Fork requested that we provide him with an update, and we did that. I did receive a return email from him. He was appreciative of the fact that we got him that information, and essentially what he wanted to know is how long would he be able to receive the amount of money that he's receiving, or when the spigot gets turned off, I guess is the other thing that he's looking at. And so, but we did provide that. And then the other item that we have that I know we'll talk about elsewhere in the agenda will be kind of an update on the ORS 190 discussions. And there will be some meetings, both combined and separately, that we can talk about later in today's meeting. So, Mr. President, members of the board, that completes my report on
The legal issue? Under summary?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I put a note in here and I didn't know what happened. One of the things that I noted here is that we've had, it's over in the legal issues section. One of the things is that I made a misstatement in the legal issues summary where I said that I had been directed by the board to, and that's under item C, summary of legal. I said harangue long was authorized by the board, and that's really authorized by the general manager. And the reason for that is because of the conflict of interest issues faced by the board. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you, Mr. Hermanson, for saying that.
Okay.
I will now go on to commission business.
Mr. Chair,
Item number 10, we've already done that.
I was just curious if we could get some more explanation of the legal issues process from the general manager. If we don't have the report, I'm really in the dark of what that harangue was about.
We've been notified by the court that ex-commissioner Warren Mitchell had filed a complaint with the court regarding the outcome, well, actually the methodology of the election. And as a result, there was a lawsuit filed, and there will be a court hearing in Judge's Chamber on the 18th, I believe. I believe that's a Monday, if I'm not mistaken, where there will be various, both the county and CRW seeking party status, and there's been a request by Mr. Mitchell that we not be allowed to do so, although the court has already ruled on that issue in a different setting. So as a result, we're having to spend the additional money to litigate that issue.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
And the commission business, item number 10, we've already discussed that at the top of the meeting. Code of conduct, we're scheduling that at the next work session, which is going to happen this month. Everybody has their reimbursements in so that they're all taken care of in a timely manner. And now we'll talk about our August and September meeting schedule. Ken?
In continuing our work to revise policies and streamline them as much as possible and take operations out of policy, we've been having a series of meetings to update our policies and also bring them into compliance with our actual performance. One of the subjects that came up was the idea of a code of conduct for the board members themselves. As I have said before, I think that we expect highly professional behavior out of our staff, and we should expect no less from ourselves. So that's one of the items that would be discussed. We have been presented with a first draft that looks pretty good, but would be something that we need to go over in a work session. We have a number of other items potentially to go on a work session. Code of conduct, a request from CRBC, continuing on our policies, finishing off the general manager's goals and objectives, a possible report from Commissioner Kalani regarding the evaluation process, and again, a review of the issues that were raised by Ms. Kemper today on one of our policies. So we need to schedule our next work session, so I've got my calendar open. Since I think it's Mr. Kalani and Mr. McNeil who have the more difficult schedules, maybe they can tell us what days work for them, and then we can look at ours and see if it works. So,
What time of day did you want to do this? Whatever.
preferably mornings, myself,
Okay,
around,
okay.
you know, I would say roughly 10 o'clock in the morning. That allows people to get up, drink coffee, get their exercise, speaking for myself at least, and then get here in a timely manner. So what day of the week would work for everyone? And we could basically say that day, each month, would be a tentative work session, and then if we don't have any business, we just cancel it. I probably have a fairly free schedule, so I'll defer to what works for you guys for the moment.
Monday or Thursday mornings would work for me.
Okay? Mondays work good for me. Do we want to schedule our first one for, let's, be the third Monday of the month, and use the third Monday of the month, each month? Something like that?
Yeah, that'd be fine with me.
Oh, you Grafton, does that work for you?
No preference, doesn't make any difference.
Okay. Sounds like we have a consensus then for the third Monday of each month until canceled.
And then Commissioner Humberston, are you retaining the one that was tentatively scheduled for the 27th? Or are you replacing that with the third Monday, the 19th in August?
I don't have one on the 27th.
Okay. There was one tentatively scheduled.
Okay. I remember seeing that email.
Okay. All right.
So,
What was scheduled on the 27th?
ask Adora.
A tentative work, there was a work session tentatively scheduled for the 27th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one I had to cancel out on,
Yeah.
Okay.
because there was a conflict with the,
Right.
So the 19th works better for you, because it's a Monday.
yeah.
Okay. So just third Monday of each month,
Okay.
It
okay,
is.
10 a.m.
Oh, I will not be here. I will be in the court hearing.
That Monday?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Well, wait a minute, is that, oh, that's Monday the 19th.
19th.
Right, the third Monday.
Okay, well, we could do this month, the fourth Monday, and then go to the third Monday from then on. Is that, if that works for others?
Yeah, that'll work for me.
Okay, so the 26th.
The 26th.
26th,
Work session, and then after that, it'll be the third Mondays of the month
till at 10 o'clock.
at 10 a.m. And if anybody has additional items for the work session, if you will get them either to me or to Adora, we'll make sure that they're on an agenda to work with.
Anybody have any problem with our regular meeting date for this meeting in September? That's Thursday, as usual.
So the usual Thursday, no problem.
Lee?
I have a question. On the meeting on the 27th, does the board anticipate making any decisions at that meeting?
It's the 26th.
It's gonna be
26th, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Does the board intend to make any, because you may want, if you do, I would recommend that you have a special meeting / work session and that we announce it accordingly. So I just raised that for the board's consideration.
We probably should do that.
Okay. The only problem I see with that, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if, let's take using the code of conduct as an example, if we assume, just for the sake of argument, that we adopt it as written, we're willing to adopt it as written, we would need to have that on an agenda for that special meeting. If, or can you add things to the agenda without notifying the public? The same, obviously for a special meeting, the public needs to be notified.
What I would, assuming that, using that example,
Yeah.
we would create the agenda now, we would announce the meeting, and the reason that I asked the question, because it makes a difference how we announce the meeting. And so if you intend to make decisions.
So if it has to do, with the code of conduct, we need to spend some time on this. I just got this yesterday, and I'm not real happy. So we need to take some time, and we need to push this thing out. This isn't something we hurry into. This is a big deal, okay? And we need to spend some time and maybe find something better than this, I hope, so.
Okay. So what you're saying then is you do a tentative agenda for a special meeting, and then you strike the ones that you decide not to do anything about,
Well,
in effect.
I would recommend that you be a little bit more specific than that, so that the public knows if there are items that the board is likely to take action on, that it be reflected on any announcement versus those things that you intend to deal with strictly as a work session issue.
It seems like the things that we've been talking about, the process for evaluation of the manager, and the code of conduct, and those things, to me, would require a lot of discussion. And I don't know that we would be prepared to approve anything that was brought up in this first session. I think we need at least one to discuss it and build some kind of a format.
And that's fine, I just threw it out.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of times people get sideways, they go into a meeting at a work session, all of a sudden you're making a bunch of decisions. And the public rightfully says, wait a minute. that isn't what we think.
Well, let's just keep it as a work session then, and not anticipate any special meeting out of it, just make it a work session.
That was my thought with the work session, was
Okay.
you work on it, you won't approve it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, 10 a.m. the 26th.
The last agenda item, we'll have public comment. Barbara.
I just want to thank staff for finally making the packets available electronically. I really appreciate that. Saves a lot of paper for me.
Me too.
So thank you all for whatever part you have in this.
I think that was all staff.
With that, unless there's anything else, we're adjourned.